Welcome, guys. Good evening. It's good to be with you tonight. Together tonight, we are going to be reading through the book of Enoch. We will be starting at chapter 9 and hopefully making it all the way to chapter 19. If you were with us last week, we went through chapters 1 through 8, and so we're going to do the same format we did last week. We will start with just reading, so I'm going to kind of go through it myself. I'll give some interjection between verses perhaps, but mainly I'm just going to get through it without checking the comments. So I encourage you to take notes or, write down something you want to ask, because after we read through it, then we will have discussion time. So that after we're finished getting through chapter 19, we'll turn around and open it up and we'll go through anything you guys want to talk about. So I will encourage you to write those things down or just jog mental notes so you can ask questions when we're done. But we can go ahead and I guess we get started here in the book of Enoch, starting in chapter 9 today. It's good to have you guys. Thank you for joining me this evening. I am fighting a bit of a cold, so please bear with me. If I have to mute and start coughing, I will try to do that so I don't cough in your ear. But here we go. We're in the Bible Scribe app in the book of Enoch. We're going to chapter 9. If it will load up there. There we go. All right, make this a little bigger so we can all see it well, and let's get started. So just to recap briefly, I'll try to remember where we were last week at the end of chapter 8. We had talked, the book started out with just an admonition to God and a discussion of the judgment of God, the final judgment. And the reason it started with that, by the way, is because in the end, these angels, along with any other wicked creatures, human or non-human, are going to be judged at the final judgment. So the first chapter of the book of Enoch shows you that final judgment when God arrives for the great white throne judgment with his thousands upon thousands of angels. He's called the Most High God, and it's an incredible passage about what that will be like. But the reason it does that is because then it goes into the infraction by these angels, 200 angels according to the book, that made a pact with each other to come down and impregnate women and essentially have children, have progeny, have offspring, which of course were the giants, the Nephilim. So that was what we read about last week. So now we're getting into more of the kind of the consequences of those actions this week in chapter 9. So with that short intro, let's go ahead and go into verse 1 of chapter 9. And then Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel, these are all cherubim angels around the throne of God. They looked down from heaven and saw much blood being shed upon the earth, and all lawlessness being wrought upon the earth. And they, these cherubim angels, said to one another, the earth made without inhabitant cries the voice of their crying up to the gate of heaven. And now to you, the holy ones of heaven, the souls of men make their suit, saying, bring our cause before the Most High. So I just want to mention here, it is talking about the fact that the humanity at this point in history was petitioning God, petitioning through prayer. And there are many other writings that talk about what happens when people pray to God, and that is that the angels, they capture those messages and deliver those messages to God for humanity. So that's what's being said here. These angels saying the whole earth, the world is crying out. And so it says, now you holy ones of heaven, these angels, the souls of men are making their petition and saying, bring our cause to the Most High. This is what the job of many angels is to bring the messages, the prayers of mankind to God the Father. So I just wanted to make that point as we move forward. The next verse here, and they said to the Lord of ages, Lord of lords, God of gods, King of kings, and God of the ages, the throne of thy glory stands unto all generations of the ages. and thy name holy and glorious and blessed unto all the ages. Just a beautiful description of the Most High God here. Thou hast made all things, and power over all things hast thou, and all things are naked and open in thy sight. And thou seest all things, and nothing can hide itself from thee. Verse 7, Thou seest what Azazel has done, who hath taught all unrighteousness on earth, and revealed the eternal secrets which were preserved in heaven, which men were striving to learn. So these things that the angels taught humans, and we did read about some of those last week, a lot of different things, making of weapons, making of dyes and tinctures by which, women would put makeup on their faces, make themselves look beautiful. All these different things. Music was one of the things. And so the angels taught humanity all these things. These are called, some of these things, secrets which were preserved in heaven, things that were not supposed to be taught to mankind. And I wanted to make another point here where it first, and you notice here, this is the first mention of any of these angels in this passage, where the cherubim, the holy angels, Michael, Uriel, etc., they are talking about this, and the first angel they mention is Azazel. I just wanted to make that point. It's interesting that Azazel is treated a little bit differently than all the rest of the angels. Something else that I think is important to see, let me briefly do this. So if we search Enoch for Azazel, what I wanted to show you is, you'll notice in chapter 8, we read this last week, it talks about Azazel teaching men to make swords, knives, shields, breastplates, all these different things. Bracelets for women, ornaments, beautifying of the eyelids, makeup. All this is attributed to Azazel. Now, the interesting thing about it, as I looked back over last week, is that when the angels were deciding they were going to do this thing, the leaders of the angels, if you remember, Simjaza is the one who kind of initiates. He's the angel that initiates this. Then they all agree to do it. All in all, 200, it says here, chapter 6. And then here's the names of the leaders. Well, Azazel is not mentioned in this list of the leaders of the angels who made this pact and did this thing. Now, the reason that might be interesting or important is because Azazel is, of course, and we even mentioned it last week, we mentioned that he's tied to the scapegoat ceremony that Israel was to do, right? It's in the book of Leviticus. We're going to get to that again in just a little bit in this passage today. But it's interesting that Azazel seems to be handled slightly differently than the rest of the angels. Now, we'll talk more about this in just a minute, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention for now. We're not sure, based on what we read in chapter 6, whether Azazel was part of the group that actually impregnated women, or if he just came along for the ride and then started teaching men evil things. Because the reason I'm saying all this is because in a lot of texts, Azazel is equated with Satan himself. So that's why it's interesting that he's not treated the same way as all these angels. And then, of course, we're here in chapter 9, and the first angel that's mentioned is Azazel. The angel here says, Thou see what Azazel has done. He's taught all unrighteousness on the earth. So that's just an interesting point that we're going to talk more about tonight as we go through. He mentions everything that Azazel does. Then he says, Simjaza, to whom thou hast given authority to bear rule over his associates. And they have gone to the daughters of men upon the earth, and slept with the women, and have defiled themselves, and revealed to them all kinds of sins. And the women have borne giants. Now, I just wanted to say that we had some discussion last week, too, about, there's a lot of historical contradiction from scholars about giants, right? They don't want to believe that it's really giants that we're talking about. But this text makes it unabashedly clear that it's giants we're talking about, like super tall human creatures, right? That were not meant to exist, but they did because of this incursion. So I just want to make that point that there's no wiggle room in this text to believe that there are not giants, okay? It says the whole earth has been thereby filled with blood and unrighteousness because of these giants. Blood and unrighteousness. Verse 11, and now behold, the souls of those who have died are crying and making their suit to the gates of heaven. These are the people that are being killed, slaughtered by the giants. Remember we talked last week about that the giants started cannibalizing humans because they were starting to exhaust the earth of its resources. The giants were huge. It said in the passages we read last week, they were 1,000 ells or some strange, huge measurement that seems to indicate the original giants were very tall, like trees, maybe. So just know that they were doing all sorts of horrible things. And so humanity, the souls of those who are dead now because of the giants, are crying out, and the angels are capturing those messages and going to send those to God himself. Their lamentations have ascended, and we cannot cease because of the lawless deeds which are wrought on earth. Verse 12, and thou knowest all things before they come to pass, and thou seest these things, and thou dost suffer them. Thou dost not say to us what we are to do in regard to these. So the angels are now petitioning God for the answer. What do we do about this thing that's happening on earth? So as we transfer to chapter 10, let me get a small drink here. Keep my keep my throat from going crazy. All right. So verse 10, verse 1, or chapter 10, verse 1. Then said the Most High, so God responds to the angels, the Holy and Great One, he speaks, and sent Uriel, the son of Lamech, and said to him. So Lamech is Noah's father, Uriel being his son, and this angel speaks to him and says, go to Noah, your brother, and tell him in my name, hide thyself, and reveal to him the end that is approaching, that the whole earth will be destroyed, and a deluge is about to come upon the whole earth, and will destroy all that is on it. Verse 3, now instruct him that he may escape, and his seed may be preserved for all the generations of the world. And again the Lord said to Raphael, bind Azazel. Again, Azazel mentioned first out of all the angels, which is very interesting. It was Simjaza that started this whole thing, but it's Azazel that's first mentioned for binding. Bind Azazel hand and foot, cast him into darkness, make an opening in the desert which is in Dudael, and cast him therein. Place upon him rough and jagged rocks, cover him with darkness, and let him abide there forever, and cover his face that he may not see light. And so I want to make some points here. We'll go into verse 6 first, and then I'll make these points. On the day of judgment, he, Azazel, shall be cast into the fire, and heal the earth then, on the day of great judgment, he's saying. And he will heal the earth which the angels have corrupted, and proclaim the healing of the earth, that they may heal the plague, and that all the children of men may not perish through all the secret things that the watchers have disclosed and taught to their sons. So this all is very important. We got to stop here for just a second, because like I had mentioned before, Azazel now is talked about being bound and cast into darkness and put into an opening in the desert, which is in Dudael, and cast in. He's going to be placed around rough, jagged rocks, covered with darkness, and he abides there forever, and don't let him see light. And so this is important. In verse 8, it says, the whole earth has been corrupted through his works, the things that were taught by him. So what does it say? To him ascribe all sin. So these are important points. Azazel is ascribed, all sin is ascribed to him. Okay, all sin is attributed or put on him. Then he is what? He is sent into where? He's sent into the darkness and opening in the desert in Dudael and cast in. A place where there's rough and jagged rocks. This is all super important. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into this cross-reference in Leviticus chapter 16. And we're going to read about the scapegoat. So let me get this the way I found it earlier, which is super helpful. So in the scapegoat ritual for the Israelites, they were told to take 2 goats. They present them before the Lord at the door of the tabernacle, and Aaron casts lots upon the 2. One lot falls to one of the goats, and that goat is for the Lord, and the other goat is the scapegoat. Okay? So Aaron brings the 2 goats. He brings the goat that's the Lord's goat, and that one is presented alive before the Lord. The one that is the Lord's goat is offered as a sin offering. Now, if we go further down, it says they take the blood of this offering and he takes it to the temple and he scatters the blood all over the temple in the, Holy of Holies and everywhere throughout the temple. Now that, of course, just like other sacrifices that are mentioned in the Bible, is a representation of what Christ does. He is the sacrifice for the righteous. He is the sacrifice whose blood goes to the Holy of Holies in heaven, symbolized by the Mosaic, tabernacle, temple, Holy of Holies that was on earth. That was a symbolic representation of what's in heaven. So the goat that's taken and killed there for the sins of Israel and the priesthood and everything to cleanse them, that is a representation of Christ. Now, what happens with the other goat? The other goat, the scapegoat. Now, this word scapegoat in the Hebrew, by the way, is literally the word Azazel. The translators had such a hard time figuring out what to do with this word that they kind of used the scapegoat word in English just to put something there. They didn't know what an Azazel was, okay? So this word in Hebrew is Azazel, straight out of the same, that we're reading in Enoch. So the goat on which the lot falls to become Azazel is presented alive before the Lord. Why? To make an atonement with him. What is this, and what did we just read about in Enoch? That at the end, Azazel would stand before the Lord at the judgment, right? To make some kind of petition for himself before he is judged by God. And then he is let go into the wilderness. He fails that judgment. And then Azazel is sent into where? Just like the book of Enoch said, into Dudael, into the wilderness, the place of a rocky, mountainous region. This is exactly what they did with the scapegoat. They would tie the red sash on it. Now, that's not actually mentioned in the book of Leviticus, by the way, the red sash. But it's said down here, how is it said? I can't remember. Aaron would lay his hands on this goat, the one that's still alive after the other one is sacrificed, and will confess over him all the iniquities of the children of Israel and all their transgressions in their sins, and put them on the head of the goat. Now, in later times, they would do this by putting the red sash on the goat's head, right? That was a representation of sin. So they put their sin on the Azazel, and they send him away into the wilderness, which is a direct representation of the same thing that's in the book of Enoch, the parts of the underworld, the Hades, the regions of darkness. So this is a perfect representation of exactly what we're reading in the book of Enoch. The goat will bear all the iniquities into a land uninhabited, or that's Hades, that's the underworld. And he will let that goat go in the wilderness. And if you'll read much about the scapegoat ritual in later times, you'll read that they would lead it to a cliff and then essentially force the goat off a cliff to where it would die. Okay, it wasn't just sin away. They would actually walk it out and force it over a cliff so it would perish. And that, of course, would again even further represent the underworld, the abyss, where the place of punishment for angels like Azazel is. So, you'll go online, and I said it last week, but you'll hear all sorts of weird interpretations about the scapegoat ritual. You'll mostly hear from people that the scapegoat is Jesus. But that's the wrong interpretation. It's the wrong... You're way off if you think the scapegoat is Jesus. It's the other goat that's Jesus. He is sacrificed, and his blood is spread in the temple, just like all the prophecies say about Christ. But this goat is a representation of Azazel, which we are reading now about in one of the oldest writings that we have available to us, the book of Enoch, which is just amazing. But that's what this is talking about. On the day of judgment, he's cast into the fire. This is what we're talking about. Now, again, back to the discussion of, is Azazel Satan? I don't know 100%. And the reason I don't know, even though some texts, very few texts, but some texts do equate Satan with Azazel. However, it's hard to reconcile the fact that it says up here, we're going to bind him hand and foot and cast him into darkness until the time of the great judgment, because I don't think that makes sense in terms of Satan himself. I don't know that Satan has been bound since the time of Enoch and is still bound. We have, of course, Revelation 20, where Satan is bound for 1,000 years and then released again. He deceives nations. So, I lean towards that this is definitely a different angel than Satan himself, but yet a very formidable foe. Like one that we should, know about. Azazel, Satan. We have others too that, when it comes to Antichrist and things like that, we have other angel principalities we need to be aware exist that are very powerful dark forces. So I would just say this is probably one of them. So then in verse 9, after Azazel is ascribed all sin, to Gabriel said the Lord, proceed against the bastards and the reprobates. Now this phraseology of saying bastards and reprobates, that's going to be used numerous times for the Nephilim, the offspring of the angels, the giants. Okay, that's what this text calls them. And against the children of fornication, another name for them. And destroy the children of fornication, the children of the watchers from amongst men, and cause them to go forth. Send them one against another, so they may destroy each other in battle. For the length of days they shall not have. So God's command is for the angels to cause the watchers, or the children of the watchers rather, the Nephilim, the giants, to actually start fighting against each other, fighting one another, and killing each other off. And this is really the consequence, the punishment that the watchers will now have to watch. In verse 10, and no request that they, or their fathers, meaning make of thee, shall be granted to their fathers on their behalf. The fathers here are the watchers, right? That's the watcher angels who procreated to create these giant beings. No request will be granted them, for they hope to live an eternal life, and that each one of them will live 500 years. Verse 11, the Lord said to Michael, go bind Simjaza and his associates, who have united themselves with women, so as to have defiled themselves with them in their uncleanness. So Michael is told to go bind the angels, and when their sons have slain one another, and they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them fast for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth, till the day of their judgment and of their consummation, till the judgment that is forever and ever is consummated. So Michael being told to go and once the Nephilim have killed one another, take the angels who did this thing, the 200 watcher angels, and bind them fast. He mentions for 70 generations. We can assume that this is, it may be a actual measurement, like you can measure the generations if you had the right scale of number. But regardless, it is till the day of their judgment and consummation. The judgment that is forever and ever is consummated. So They are bound until the final judgment. Okay, I don't want don't get your wires crossed here and think that at some point in history past, all these angels have now been released. That's not true. They were to be reserved in chains until the final judgment, so they would stand before God for these crimes. In fact, some of the later writings, early Christian writings, even talk about this in regards to the great white throne judgment. They say that these watcher angels will be there too, standing judgment before God. So that is what's being said here, that this binding lasts until the very end. And that's one of the points I might mention before we move on, as to why I don't think that Satan was one of these, obviously, because he couldn't be bound that entire time, according to other texts and including the scriptures. So, that's why either this doesn't include Azazel, he's treated differently a little bit in this text, if Azazel is Satan, but if Azazel is included in this binding, then Azazel cannot be Satan, obviously. So that's just one of those things. It's like hard to kind of grasp totally, but I think you guys understand where I'm coming from on that. Verse 13, in those days, they, these angels, these watcher angels, shall be led off to the abyss of fire. That's after the final judgment. They will be led off to the abyss of fire, and to the torment, the prison in which they will be confined forever. And whosoever shall be condemned and destroyed will from thenceforth be bound together with them to the end of all generations. And destroy all the spirits of the reprobate, the children of the watchers, because they have wronged mankind. Now, I want to say here, the word destroy is going to be used now. It's now been used the second time. It mentioned the destroying the watchers, and now it's saying destroy the spirits of the Nephilim. But this word doesn't mean an obliteration, obviously, because you'll see that in this part. It's whatever word is being translated here, either from the Ethiopic or the Greek, doesn't mean an obliteration. It's essentially saying bring chaos against all the spirits of the reprobates, of the children of the watchers, because they've wronged mankind. Now we'll continue and it'll make sense. Destroy all wrong from the face of the earth. Let every evil work come to an end. Let the plant of righteousness and truth appear, and it will prove a blessing. The works of the righteousness and truth shall be planted in truth and joy forevermore. Now, this is all actually still talking, by the way, about what happens at the end, after the final judgment. It's telling you what's going to happen. What will happen after the flood? It says, let the plant of righteousness and truth appear. Now, there's another part of the book of Enoch we're going to read, but it'll take us a while to get there. It's in like chapter 92. But it mentions the plant of righteousness a few times in the book of Enoch. And the plant of righteousness is Israel. It's the plant of righteousness, the nation God chooses to start the true understanding of righteousness and put it back into the earth after the flood, right? So after the flood, it was all obliterated. Everyone was killed. We got Noah's family, and then out of that, we come through the generations to Abraham, and then because of Abraham, and then down through, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, we get the plant of righteousness, and that's what it's called. Israel comes out of that. Jacob, Israel. And so in many texts, that's called the plant of righteousness. I mean, we obviously can see in the New Testament, they're called the vine. But this plant of righteousness is a very common phrase. So that definitely means Israel. So what it's talking about is after we destroy all wrong from the face of the earth and evil works come to an end because of the flood of Noah, let the plant of righteousness and truth appear, because that's essentially the chronology of what happens. Israel appears on the earth after all of that takes place. God chooses a nation for himself out of all. And it shall prove a blessing. The works of righteousness and truth will be planted in truth and joy forevermore. This doesn't mean that Israel will be a nation forever, but it's saying the works of righteousness, truth will be planted forever. Okay, so this is the establishment again for God of truth and righteousness on earth. And he starts to do that through Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, through Israel. Okay, verse 17, then shall all the righteous escape, and they shall live till they beget thousands of children, and all the days of their youth and their old age shall they complete in peace. Now it's not really bouncing around, but you have to understand he's talking at least 2,500 years before Christ about things that are going to happen in the next thousands of years, including everything to the end of history, right? He's already mentioned the final judgment. So you got to understand he's traversing a lot of ground. Oh, excuse me. He's covering a lot of ground with just a few words, so we have to be careful about how we understand all of it. He says, then, after all of this, the righteous will escape. And they will live to beget thousands of children, and the days of their youth and their old age they will complete in peace. And then shall the whole earth be tilled in righteousness. Now, what is this? He already talked about the flood of Noah. That's already happened and passed in this quick chronology of future history. So at some point in the future, we can assume this is at the great white throne judgment. The whole earth is tilled in righteousness. It will be planted with trees and be full of blessing. Now, I think I have a pretty good cross-reference here. Yeah, so Revelation in chapter 22. Of course, that is chronologically in Revelation. It's after the new heaven and new earth have appeared, and that's what it's talking about. It's talking about the new Jerusalem, talking about the fruit trees on either side of the streets in the middle of the city, and the manner of fruits that are yielded every month, etc., etc. So that's a possible reference to what is being talked about here in Enoch. The whole earth is tilled in righteousness. It's turned over. It's made new. All desirable trees will be planted on it. They will plant vines on it. And the vine they plant will yield wine in abundance. And as for the seed which is sown thereon, each measure shall bear 1,000. Each measure of olives will yield 10 presses of oil. So these are all, you may recognize some of these as parts of other prophecies you've seen in the prophets, in the major prophets in the Old Testament. And that's because some of the time they were talking about just this very thing. What is the new earth going to be like once God has fixed everything? What's it going to be like? It's going to be abundance. You know, you won't have to worry about whether plants will provide increase, because once the earth is tilled and replanted, it's all going to be just, it's like the Garden of Eden. You know, it's more than you could ever need. There will be no need. There will be no poor people there. You'll have everything you need on the new earth. There will be abundance in spades. Verse 20, and cleanse thou then the earth from all oppression. There won't be oppression. There won't be unrighteousness, and from all sin and godlessness, and the uncleanness that is wrought upon the earth. Destroy it from off the earth. And all the children of men will become righteous. So this is definitely after the new heaven and new earth have been established, because every man is righteous, right? How else is that going to happen before, without God judging all mankind, getting rid of sin, sending all sin, ascribing it to Azazel, and then sending it into the lake of fire? Okay, so that's what we're talking about here. He says, all nations will offer adoration and praise me. All shall worship me. And the earth shall be cleansed from all defilement, and from all sin, and from all punishment, and all torment. And I will never again send them upon it from generation to generation forever. So, anyway, this seems to me to be very clear about what the new earth will be like. There will just not be the defilement, the sin, all of this stuff that has gone on because of these angels. And we're going to hear more about that in just a second. Let's continue on. Chapter 11. In those days I will open the store chambers of blessing which are in the heaven, so as to send them down upon the earth over the work and labor of the children of men. Truth and peace will be associated together throughout all the days of the world and all generations of men. Chapter 12. Before these things Enoch was hidden, and no one of the children of men knew where he was hidden, and where he abode, and what had become of him. So we're shifting now from the kind of talk about the end times and what's going to happen with the angels at the end, and how mankind will be fixed because of the sin that the angels brought to humans. That will last, by the way, until the end, and then it will be fixed on the new earth. But now it switches over and it's talking about Enoch. And I just wanted to mention before we get into Enoch real far, that I do have a video that talks about the life of Enoch on earth, and it combines all the texts that talk about that, like Jubilees and Jasher, and it talks you through the story of Enoch. So I have, let me look that up real quick. So I tell you right, it's got an interesting title. I think it was, yeah, I remember this now. Yeah, I called it Enoch's Journey to Antarctica, because really it's an interesting story, because the texts say he goes to this place of snow and ice. And so anyway, that's the name of the video, Enoch's Journey to Antarctica. It's on the channel for you if you want. All right, before these things Enoch was hidden, and no one of the children of men knew where he was hidden, where he abode, or what had become of him. So Enoch was gone during all of this, okay? He had been kind of taken away by God. It says his activities had to do with the watchers, and his days were with the holy ones. And I, Enoch, was blessing the Lord of majesty, the King of ages, and lo, the watchers called me, Enoch the scribe, and said to me. So just to retrace a little bit, Enoch the scribe is said because that was Enoch's position in heaven. And that's why God took him to heaven, was to be his heavenly scribe, according to most of the texts that talk about it. So that's what Enoch is talking about. At this point where we're joining in the story about Enoch, he already has been in heaven. He's already working with God directly. And so now he's saying the watchers now are calling to me. So the watchers, after they do the thing, they do the bad thing with the women, they come now and they talk to Enoch because he's God's scribe. Verse 4, Enoch, thou scribe of righteousness, go declare to the watchers of heaven, who have left the high heaven, the holy eternal place, and have defiled themselves with women, and have done as the children of earth do, and have taken to themselves wives. Ye have wrought great destruction upon the earth. Ye shall have no peace nor forgiveness of sin, and inasmuch as they delight themselves in their children, the murder of their beloved ones, the Nephilim, shall they see, and over the destruction of their children shall they lament, and shall make supplication to eternity. But mercy and peace they will not attain. So they will, of course, be trying to petition for themselves up until the final judgment, but they will not be able to make any headway with God because of what they have done. Chapter 13, and Enoch went and said, Azazel, thou shalt have no peace. A severe sentence has gone forth against thee to put thee in bonds. And thou shalt have not the toleration nor request granted to thee, because of the unrighteousness which you have taught, and because of the works of godlessness and unrighteousness and sin which you have shown to men. Then I went and spoke to them all together. See, that was another case where he handled Azazel first and differently. But it did say, by the way, that he would be put in bonds. So again, that to me is a marker for, wow, this sounds like a very high-level angel like Satan or close to Satan. This would not be Satan proper. So because it just doesn't match with the other things we read in the scriptures about Satan. So just wanted to mention that. He's put in bonds along with these angels. All right, so down here in verse 3, he goes to all the angels now, Simjaza and all the other leaders together. And they were afraid. Fear and trembling seized them. And they besought me, Enoch, to draw a petition for them that they might find forgiveness, and to read the petition in front of the Lord of heaven. For from thenceforward they could not speak with him, nor lift their eyes to heaven for shame of their sins, which they had been condemned of. Then I wrote out their petition and the prayer in regard to their spirits and their deeds individually, and in regard to their request that they should have forgiveness and length of days. And I went off and sat down at the waters of Dan in the land of Dan to the southwest of Hermon. I read their petition until I fell asleep. So it seems that at some level, Enoch was at least going to take their petition, right? He took it and he read the petition. He went off by himself. He falls asleep. And it says, "Behold, now a dream came to me, and visions fell down upon me. I saw visions of chastisement, and a voice came bidding me to tell it to the sons of heaven and to reprimand them." So the vision he gets, the dream and vision he gets, is to reprimand these angels and not to, necessarily take the petition to God at all, but to instead chastise them for what they have done. Verse 9, "When I awakened, I came to them, and they were all sitting gathered together, weeping in Abelshal, which is between Lebanon and Senneser, with their faces covered. And I recounted before them all the visions I had seen in my sleep, and I began to speak the words of righteousness and reprimand the heavenly watchers." So he starts chastising this group of watchers for what they have done. Chapter 14, the book of the words of righteousness. Now this verse 1 here is actually, I think it needs to be a title really for the next section. Okay, so this is really kind of a title for chapter 14 and following. The book of the words of righteousness and of the reprimand of the eternal watchers, in accordance with the command of the Holy Great One in the vision. Okay, that's what we're going to be reading. "I saw in my sleep what I will now say with the tongue of flesh and with the breath of my mouth, which the Great One has given to men to converse therewith and understand with the heart. And he has created and given to man the power of understanding the word of wisdom, so hath he created me also, given me the power of reprimanding the watchers, the children of heaven. I wrote out your petition, and in my vision it appeared thus, that your petition will not be granted to you throughout all the days of eternity, and that judgment has been finally passed upon you. Yea, your petition will not be granted to you. And from henceforth you shall not ascend into heaven for all eternity, and in bonds of the earth the decree has gone forth to bind you for all the days of the world." So these angels would all be bound, as it says, all the days of the world, of the earth. So, until the great judgment, they would be bound and then judged and then destroyed. Verse 6, "And that previously you shall have seen the destruction of your beloved sons, and you shall have no pleasure in them, but they shall fall before you by the sword. And your petition on their behalf shall not be granted, nor yet on your own, even though you weep and pray and speak all the words contained in the writing which I have written. And the vision was shown to me thus. Behold, in the vision clouds invited me, and a mist summoned me. And the course of the stars and the lightning sped and hastened me, and the winds in the vision caused me to fly and lifted me upward and bore me into heaven." So get ready. We're going to be taken on a little ride with Enoch. He's telling these angels about the vision he had, and the reason will become apparent. But he's now going to be visiting places in the heavenly realm. Maybe we should call this the spiritual realm, because I think he's going to see things that are both high and low, so to speak. Verse 9, "I went in till I drew nigh to a wall which is built of crystals, surrounded by flames of fire, and it began to affright me. I went into the flames of fire and drew nigh to a large house which was built of crystals. The wall of the house was like a tessellated floor made of crystals. Its groundwork was of crystal." This tessellated statement here, I would just say that it probably means something like a tile, right? He says the walls of this house, this dwelling place that's inside fire, it's all crystal, but it looks like tiled crystal, so to speak. So whatever pattern you can imagine, it was something to behold for sure. Verse 11, "Its ceiling was like the path of the stars and lightnings. Between them were fiery cherubim. Their heaven was clear as water." Verse 12, "A flaming fire surrounded all the walls. The portals blazed with fire," meaning the doorways, the entryways into this dwelling place, blazed with fire. And I entered into that house, and it was hot as fire and cold as ice. There were no delights of life therein. Fear covered me, and trembling got hold on me. And as I quaked and trembled, I fell on my face. And behold, a vision. Lo, there was a second house, greater than the former. The entire portal stood open before me, meaning the doorway, this huge doorway for this second house, second dwelling place. And it was built, the door was built of flames of fire. And in every respect, it so excelled in splendor and magnificence and extent that I cannot describe to you its splendor and its extent. Its floor was of fire, above it was lightnings, the path of the stars, and its ceiling also was flaming fire. And I looked in, and I saw therein a lofty throne. So I think the way we should kind of understand this is that he's going into, and it's just like the temple was built on earth, because the temple was built to represent what he is seeing right now. He went into one set of walls, right? A lower set. There was crystal. There was fire all around. The doorway was fire. He goes in. There's another set of walls, higher, bigger, stronger, more magnificent. That's essentially what we could think of in the temple terms as the Holy of Holies. He goes into this massive doorway, and he sees the throne of God, okay? So that's what we're talking about here. You'll notice in the cross-references here, this goes straight to Ezekiel, right? Ezekiel chapter 1 talks all about the throne of God, and it says the exact same types of things. So he sees the lofty throne. Its appearance was as crystal, the wheels thereof as the shining sun, and there was the vision of the cherubim. And from underneath the throne came streams of flaming fire, so that I could not look on them. And the great glory sat thereon, and his raiment shone more brightly than the sun, and was whiter than any snow. This is a very common description of what God looks like when prophets go and see him in a vision. He's like fire. His raiment shines brightly like the sun, and his face, it's like white as snow. Okay, it's just all these different descriptives are very common, and that's how we know it's true. Because all of these descriptives from prophets through the centuries say the exact same things about the throne of God. So I think you guys, we need to all admit and realize that, man, it's consistent. And it obviously is like they describe it, as best they can describe it, right? I mean, we can only imagine what this experience would be like. I'm sure you guys long for it as much as I do. None of the angels could enter this place and could behold his face because of the reason of the magnificence and glory. No flesh could behold him. The flaming fire was around him, and a great fire stood before him. None around could draw near to him. 10,000 times 10,000s stood before him. These are the angels. This is how it's always said. 10,000 times 10,000. This means so many you can't count, right? Angels are up there. And he needed, this being on the throne needed no counselor. There was no counselor with him, right? And the most holy ones who were nigh to him did not leave by night, nor depart from him. And until then I had been prostrate on my face, trembling. And the Lord called me with his own mouth and said, "Come hither, Enoch, and hear my word." Now, don't forget, this is all the vision, and Enoch's telling the watcher angels, he's telling them this vision still. So he's relating the story of what happened in the vision. One of the holy ones came to me and waked me, and he made me rise up and approach the door. So this means one of the angels came to Enoch as he was prostrate on the ground before the throne and pulled him up, right? It doesn't mean he was sleeping and he woke up. It means that the angel pulled him to his feet, made me rise and approach the door. I bowed my face downward. Chapter 15. He answered and said to me, I heard his voice. Fear not, Enoch. Thou righteous man and scribe of righteousness, approach here and hear my voice. And go say to the watchers of heaven, who have sent thee to intercede for them, you should intercede for men, and not men for you. So this is what I was talking about before when I said that, it's often said in different writings that angels are Many angels are supposed to bring the messages and the prayers of mankind to God the Father, to the throne. And that's why Enoch says here, God says to Enoch to tell the watchers, you should have been interceding for men, and men shouldn't have to intercede for you. You shouldn't come to Enoch, my scribe, and have him intercede for you. That's your job. You have gone off the rails. Verse 3, wherefore have ye left the high, holy, and eternal heaven, and you laid with women, and defiled yourselves with the daughters of men, and you've taken to yourselves wives, and done like the children of earth, and begotten giants as sons. And though you were holy, spiritual, living the eternal life, you have defiled yourselves with the blood of women, and have begotten children with the blood of flesh, and as the children of men have lusted after flesh and blood, as those who do die and perish. Therefore have I given them wives also, that they might impregnate them, and beget children by them, that thus nothing might be wanting to them on the earth. But you were formerly spiritual, living the eternal life, and immortal for all generations of the world. Therefore I have not appointed wives for you. So God was saying there that I had appointed wives for humans because they are flesh, etc., but not for you. You were immortal. You were supposed to be in heaven. In heaven is their dwelling. And now the giants who are produced from the spirits and flesh shall be called evil spirits upon the earth, and on the earth shall be their dwelling. Evil spirits have proceeded from their bodies, because they are born from men, and from the holy watchers is their beginning and primal origin. They shall be evil spirits on the earth, and evil spirits shall they be called. And by the way, just to make mention of it, the word demon in the most ancient texts literally is talking about these spirits in particular. The spirits of the giants, the disembodied spirits of these creatures that were never meant to exist, but were born from spirit combined with flesh, which was never meant to happen. That is the word used to describe these spirits that still exist. They are demons. And so when you see in the New Testament, you'll see demon mentioned, but you'll also see unclean spirit. Now, in some sense, they might be a little interchangeable, but generally speaking, if we want to be accurate with the language, we should use the word demon for the Nephilim spirits, and we should use unclean spirits for other types of spirits that might also molest or harass humanity. Okay? Verse 10, as for the spirits of heaven, in heaven will be their dwelling. But as for the spirits of the earth, which were born upon the earth, he's talking about these Nephilim spirits, on the earth shall be their dwelling. They're not going to be allowed in heaven, even though they will be spirits at that point. And the spirits of the giants afflict, oppress, destroy, attack, do battle, and work destruction on the earth, and cause trouble. They take no food, but nevertheless hunger and thirst, and cause offenses. So these spirits won't be able to eat, but they hunger and thirst. They have need, they have desire, and it's because they're unnatural for one, but they had come from their fleshly bodies, and still roaming, these demons desire those things. So they hunger and thirst, even though they cannot eat. These spirits shall rise up against the children of men and against the women, because they proceeded from them. So maybe in some sort of vindictive way, they have it out for humanity. These Nephilim spirits, these demons, are going to attack humans. They're going to oppress us. They're going to destroy, attack, do battle, work destruction, and cause trouble. They're going to possess people because they have this need for the flesh. They're going to hunger and thirst. They're going to do all these things. But it's because they are stuck here on earth. They have no body anymore. They have nowhere to go. And until the end, until the final judgment, these spirits will roam and will molest humanity. And they're of course alive and well in our time, right now, doing the same things they've always done. So demonic activity, absolutely 100% real and active even in our time right now. Verse 1 of chapter 16, from the days of the slaughter and destruction and death of the giants, from the souls of whose flesh the spirits, having gone forth, shall destroy without incurring judgment. Thus shall they destroy until the day of the consummation, the great judgment in which the age will be consummated over the watchers and godless, yea, shall be wholly consummated. So this statement here in verse 1 of chapter 16, just saying, from the days of their slaughter, that means the flood of Noah, obviously, the day that they were completely wiped out. These spirits of the Nephilim will do these things. They will destroy. And they will continue to do all these things until the great judgment, the day of consummation, in which... I apologize, guys, for my coughing. Hang on. But they will continue to do those acts until the very end of history. So we can expect that we will still be encountering this even in our modern time. Verse 2, and now as to the watchers who have sent thee to intercede for them, who had been aforetime in heaven, say to them, you have been in heaven, but all the mysteries had not been revealed to you yet. And you knew worthless ones, and these in the hardness of your hearts you made known to the women. And through these mysteries women and men work much evil on the earth. Say to them, therefore, you have no peace. So God says to these watchers, all the things you reveal to humanity, these are actually the worthless secrets of heaven, the ones that don't matter as much. The actual real things you could have known, but you decided to go this other direction. He's kind of throwing it in their face, and he says to them, you will have no peace. Chapter 17, verse 1, they took and brought me to a place in which those who were there were like flaming fire. Again, Enoch continues his journey now. He's now taken to another place. The people in this place, the beings, were like flaming fire, and they wished... when they wished, they could appear as men. And they brought me to the place of darkness, to a mountain, the point of whose summit reached to heaven. By the way, in the previous verse, the beings of flaming fire who could appear like men were most likely an angel type of being. It is the seraphim who are fire beings, fire angels, and also, in a sense, serpent-like. So that's probably what's being talked about in verse 1. Verse 2, he comes to a place of darkness and a mountain whose summit reached to heaven. Verse 3, I saw the places of the luminaries. The luminaries are the stars, the sun and the moon, the planets. And I saw the treasuries of the stars and the thunder, and in the uttermost depths were a fiery bow and arrows and their quiver, and a fiery sword and all the lightnings. And they took me to the living waters, to the fire of the west, which receives every setting of the sun. So he's getting this grand tour of the different aspects of the cosmos, the heavenly realm. And I came to a river of fire, in which the fire flows like water, and discharges itself into the great sea toward the west. I saw the great rivers, and came to the great river in the great darkness, and went to the place where no flesh walks. So now he's coming to places where there are no humans. There's no people have been or are. Verse 7, I saw the mountains of the darkness of winter, and the place whence all the waters of the deep flow. I saw the mouths of all the rivers of the earth, and the mouth of the deep. Chapter 18. I saw the treasuries of all the winds. I saw how he had furnished them the whole creation, the firm foundations of the earth. And I saw the cornerstone of the earth. I saw the four winds which bear the earth and the firmament of heaven. This is interesting stuff. I can't tell you what these things are, but he says he saw the cornerstone of the earth, whatever the foundational element that the earth is built on. He saw this. He sees the four winds that bear the firmament of heaven. He says, I saw how the winds stretch out the vaults of heaven and have their station between heaven and earth. These are the pillars of the heaven. I saw the winds of heaven which turn and bring the circumference of the sun and all the stars to their setting. So he's describing these things as winds. Whatever keeps the the heavens in their courses. It's like winds. It's like material. Ideas come to mind for me like things like the ether. Do we really understand all of the material aspect of the spiritual universe that interacts with our own? So that's the type of thing that comes to mind when I read this stuff. It's beautiful to read and understand a little more about the spiritual realm. Verse 5, I saw the winds on the earth carrying the clouds. I saw the paths of the angels. I saw the end of the earth, of the firmament of the heaven above. At the end of the earth, he saw the firmament of the heaven above. Very interesting. And I proceeded and saw a place which burns day and night, where there are 7 mountains of magnificent stones, 3 towards the east and 3 towards the south. Now, I'll say right now that just make sure you don't see this as it is a place which burns day and night, but we are seeing the 7 mountains, and the 7 mountains are important. There's 3 towards the east, 3 towards the south. There's going to be 1 in the middle, and it reaches to heaven, to the throne of God, as we will see. So this is not talking about, this isn't Hades, this isn't the underworld, it's not hell. This place which burns is actually nearing the throne of God in heaven, okay? So this place where there's 7 mountains of magnificent stone. Those towards the east was 1 of pearl and 1 of jacinth and 1 of the red stone. And then the middle of, I'm going too fast. The mountains towards the east, there was 1 of colored stone and of pearl and of jacinth. But all those towards the south were of red stone. The middle mountain, however, reached unto heaven like the throne of God, of alabaster, white alabaster. And the summit of the throne was sapphire. And I saw a flaming fire, and beyond these mountains is a region, the end of the great earth. There the heavens were completed. Now, I'll just say about this statement, it's hard to imagine these things. When it says things like the great earth, we do need to realize the word earth is what we should really translate this as land. I think the reason that this translator used the word earth is because that was the common practice of the translators of the Bible, of the New Testament, with the Greek word for land. And so we need to realize that whatever region he is in, I don't know that this statement right here is talking about our land. This is possibly a completely different land, one in heaven, one that Enoch is flying over and throughout. So I just want you to be careful about trying to use this and making a concrete determination of, well, this is talking about the flat earth model that is popular right now, and that's the end, so that's talking about near Antarctica. I don't think we should really get into that kind of trying to nail those things down. This is just a little bit different in the way it's being said. I'm just trying to make the point. The word earth here is just the great land. This is a region of a huge landscape, and that's what Enoch is seeing. And he says here the heavens were completed. He came to the end of the heavens even. Verse 11. Let me get a drink here. And I saw a deep abyss with columns of heavenly fire. And among them I saw columns of fire fall, which were beyond measure alike toward the height and toward the depths. So this is a deep abyss and columns of fire falling down this abyss that goes down so far you can't see the bottom. Like this is this is parts of heaven and hell that you probably don't want to go. Okay, now we're getting to some of the bad parts. Verse 12, and beyond that abyss, I saw a place which had no firmament of heaven above and no grounded earth below it. And there was no water on it and no birds, but it was waste. And it was a horrible, horrible place. I saw there 7 stars like great burning mountains. And to me, when I inquired about this, the angel said, this place is the end of heaven and earth. This has become a prison for the stars and the host of heaven. So I want to pause there a second because I have talked about this on the channel many times. This is why when we see the language of the abyss, the dark hole, the chasm that just goes forever and there's fire falling down it. That is the imagery of Tartarus. Okay, that's what Tartarus is. It is the place of imprisonment for angels, just as this angel describes this to Enoch. So that is what we are looking at. Even though I don't think the book of Enoch here is going to use the term Tartarus, it's a Greek term. So that wouldn't be in the Ethiopic version anyway. But this is the place of the binding of the angels he's going to talk about in a second. This is the abyss, and it's synonymous with Tartarus, okay? So this place is the end of heaven and earth, the prison for the stars and the host of heaven, and the stars which roll over the fire as they have transgressed the commandment of the Lord in the beginning of their rising, because they did not come forth at their appointed times. And God was wroth with those luminaries, those angels, and bound them till the time when their guilt would be consummated for 10,000 years. Now, I have an alternate reading on this verse because you can see here it says they're going to be bound for 10,000 years. And you might be thinking, well, maybe we should see if there's like a chronology that fits into a 10,000 year period. And, you know, people will do that kind of thing. But I want to show you something on this verse. There's another translation of the entire book of Enoch by different people. There's actually multiple translations. And I found as I studied through the different translations, this particular verse, because of that 10,000 years, I wanted to find out, well, is that truly what it's talking about? This other person, Archbishop Lawrence in 1827, he translated this verse as, therefore he was offended with them and bound these luminaries, these angels, until the period of consummation of their crimes in the secret or special year, right? So I think that, again, I wish that what I want to do for our readings is be able to do a little more preparation maybe and get some of these alternate translations. And so maybe before our readings, I will hopefully maybe be able to read through some of these alternate translations so that I have both in my head as we're going through. But I just wanted you to know that I don't think this 10,000 years should be seen as a consequential like measuring stick, especially since there are some alternate translations of this verse. But just know that it's there. He's just really saying these angels would be bound until the time of their consummation of their guilt, the judgment. So to me, that sounds like it means the great white throne judgment, the final judgment. All right, our last chapter, chapter 19. And then Uriel, the angel, the archangel Uriel, the cherubim, said to me, here shall stand the angels. Now he's talking about this abyss. He's still talking about Tartarus, right? Here shall stand the angels who have connected themselves with women, and their spirits, assuming many different forms, are defiling mankind and shall lead them astray into sacrificing to demons as gods. So this is exactly what we're talking about. These spirits of the Nephilim are going to defile mankind. And they're going to cause men to sacrifice to demons, sacrifice to these spirits themselves. But here these watchers shall stand for their crimes until the great day of judgment, in which they shall be judged till they are made an end of. So Uriel says, yes, they are going to be imprisoned here until the very end. After the judgment, they will be destroyed. Verse 2, the women also of the angels who went astray will become sirens. Now, this is interesting. I don't have much to say about this, but there, of course, is Greek and Roman mythology about the sirens. I wish I knew more about that mythology, actually, now, speaking of it. But this is something for further research. Like, what is the legendary origins of the sirens, and where did they come from? I know that probably has a lot to do with the gods in Greek mythology, but there may be a lot of parallels there if we go back and look. So it's just interesting that it's mentioned. It doesn't say any more about that. Verse 3, and I, Enoch, alone saw the vision and the ends of all things. Again, he's confirming, I'm seeing the end of all these things. I'm seeing the final judgment. I'm seeing the end of the earth. And no man will see as I have seen. All right. Well, that kind of concludes our reading for the evening. That is Enoch chapters 9 through 19. So we've gone a long way pretty quick. This is a lot of fun. All right, so let's do our discussion time. Let's see here. I'll just let you guys start with discussion time. Go ahead and put anything in the chat that you've noted that you'd like to talk about. I'm going to review the chat real quick and see if I see anything that you guys mentioned. Yeah. All right. I don't see any specific questions we need to talk about in the chat, but I'm open to discuss anything you guys want to at this point. Any questions, thoughts, or even other related topics that you want to talk about in relation to the Book of Enoch? Again, I appreciate you guys bearing with me on my throat, man. It's killing me. I'm gonna get some throat lozenges after this. Great Blue Heron, you said I long for his pure presence, but I'm also a bit afraid of it. Yeah, I think that's a healthy fear. I think it's true. You know, the good thing about that, though, you know, Great Blue Heron, is that we won't see God in our flesh. So it's going to be different. When we finally see God, all of that will be taken care of. So it's not going to be a thing where all the shame and the sin and the corruption of this flesh will be gone. Just imagine how it will feel when you don't have the corruption of the body you've lived in during this life anymore. It's not anymore surrounding you. Imagine what it'll be like, by the way, in heaven when you're with other people. We don't have our bodies anymore. We're in our spiritual form. Just think of how much fear that will dispel. There won't be this fear. You know, sometimes just when you meet someone, you see them on the street or something, you might be afraid of them because of how they look, or something about them doesn't strike you right and you don't know. But all that goes away. Once God has fixed all of this and we are in heaven and we're close to him, those social aspects, those things that make us afraid of one another, that separate us, those things won't be there anymore. There won't be a separation like that. So it will be very different, the way we relate to each other, the way we relate to God. So I like thinking about those things. I love thinking about those things, actually. Think about those things a lot, probably more than I even realize. All right. Linda, you said you were glad, you like the way I break the things down. Good. I'm glad it helps. I think so far, by the way, in what we've read, both the last week and this week, chapters 1 through 19, I haven't come across anything that I'm really confused by anymore. You know, I thought coming into this that I might actually have some things that I came across that I would be slightly confused and really have to dig on to figure out. But so far, it's been very straightforward, and I think we're going really well at this point. So I'm really excited about all of this. It's been a lot of fun. Patriot, you said you keep asking if you can meet the angels because I would not be afraid of them. I love everything with wings and fur. I like it. That's good. Precurious, you say it's interesting so much prominence placed on Azazel, considering, according to Enoch, Gadriel was who seduced Eve and thereby began the cycle of insubordination. Right. I think, do I remember that? I think I remember that. That's later on in the book, isn't it? God, let's see. I was doing a quick search for that. Let's see if I could find it. No, I don't see it. Let's see here. I'm just looking real quick, see if I can find Gadriel in there. I'm just looking for that real quick. Gadriel. Maybe I just spelled it wrong. Hold on. It's not finding it. I think I have one of the problems of just in general for my app is that some of those texts that I bring into the app, they have very special characters in them. So when I search with just normal characters, sometimes it doesn't find things. Anyway, it's an issue I've always had to fix on the back end after I get stuff in there. But this does say Gadriel was a fallen angel mentioned in the book of Enoch. He's described as having rebelled against God and played a role in leading humanity astray, right? Just like you said. Yeah. But you're right. It is interesting again. Like, I can't get over how it seems to always single out Azazel. And maybe it's just because Azazel was the one that really taught humans the things, right? He was the one that taught the humans the weapons of war. So all the things that end up probably causing humanity to hate one another, to kill each other, to lust after one another with the makeup for women and all the tinctures and dyes and all that stuff. It really comes back to Azazel, according to the book of Enoch, even though all the angels did the thing with the giants and everything and had children. But yeah, Azazel seems to get special attention. So yeah, it's just a good thing to keep in mind. Great Blue Heron, you also say you are struck with, in general, how comfortable First Enoch feels, like it fits right in with the canon. Yeah, well, I guess the way I would say that is, for most people throughout ancient history, up until maybe about the time of the Council of Nicaea, and it's not that, again, I want to reiterate, the Council of Nicaea did not produce a canon of books. But that's about the time when some of these writings started falling out of use, or some people, like, I think Augustine was one of the ones that he talked down about the book of Enoch and others because it to him was too fantastic. It was nonsense, right? But man, I just really don't like Augustine. I'm sorry. But anyway, I'm getting off track. So I'm saying that really, if you asked anyone before that time period, at the time of Christ or before that, what do you think about the book of Enoch? Is it part of the scriptures? They would have probably said yes, 100%. You probably would never have found anyone at that time that didn't think that. Because it was obvious to them, right? It was a part of everything that they kept, everything they revered as far as scripture. All right. So yeah, I understand what you're saying, Great Blue Heron. Linda, you said, where is that found? Where is what found? Linda, I'm sorry. I don't remember when you said that and what it relates to. But if you mention where it is what found, then I will help you. And then Precurious, you say, blah, blah, blah. You said it's Enoch 69:6. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Go to that. Oh, man. That cold ice is so good on my throat. Yeah, there we go. I can put that on the screen real quick. It mentions in chapter 69 the chiefs of the angels, their names, mentions Jacon, mentions Asbeel, and then it mentions the third, Gadriel, who it is that showed the children of men all the blows of death and led astray Eve, and showed the weapons of death to the sons of men, the shield and the coat of mail, the sword of battle, all the weapons of death to the children of men. Now, that's interesting. So, Precurious, I would just say here, I'm not sure this means that Gadriel is Satan. Because if you read the book of Adam and Eve, right, then you'll see that Adam and Eve were led astray many different times by different bad angels or Satan and his cohorts and blah, blah, blah. So there's a number of times, like I could probably find 5 or 6 different times where Eve was tricked by some bad angels or Satan himself. So I don't know. It's something I would take this passage here, and then I would look at the book of Adam and Eve and see, what were all the times where Eve was led astray? Could one of those have been Gadriel instead of Satan? Because I don't think I've seen any texts that kind of equate Gadriel to Satan. So I'll just leave it there. I don't know for sure, but that's interesting. Thank you for bringing that verse reference to my attention. Gotcha. Okay, Linda, we got it then. Okay, good. All right. Great Blue, you said, have you ever speculated on a video as to why it was removed from the canon? We've talked about it before. Actually, Great Blue, it was just a week or two ago. Let me see here. Let me see which one it was, that I can put the link to that segment where we talked about it in the chat for you right now, and then you can see it. So let me find this real quick. Yep. So on March 8th, actually, was in our Sunday live stream, we did this exact topic. Why isn't Enoch in the canon? And I think I did a good job at that point of talking about it and really giving a full view of why that happened and how we should view that, right? So I would say check that out. It's about what? It's about a 15-minute segment. Yeah, it won't take long. Yeah, should be good. All right. Any other questions before we finish up tonight? I think it's been good. I think tonight was a little more straightforward than the previous session, so there may not be as many questions, but I'm happy to talk about anything if y'all have it. But I may have to go in just a minute because my voice is going to give out here. The bad part is that my job requires me to talk a lot now. And so not only do I talk when I'm doing this kind of thing, but I'm talking almost all day at my job now. It's crazy. All right. Well, if you guys are good, I'm good. I've had a blast tonight. I think we'll go ahead and finish up. Thank you for joining and being live with me. But, if you are watching, you're watching this back, thank you for just jumping on and learning with us. And stick with us for the next session. I'm not sure exactly which chapters. I'll have to read through and see what chapters range we'll do next week. But, actually, I am sorry. Next week, we will not do our Bible reading because on Wednesday of next week, we will be doing, as a church, the Bible Scribe Church. If you are a Christian, you are welcome to join in our observance of the Lord's Supper. That will be next Wednesday, April 1st. And it will be, it's actually going to be a little late. And it's because of my schedule on that day is such that I can only do it a little later in the evening. It's going to be 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern. It's going to be 10 o'clock Central. It'll be 8 o'clock Pacific. So if you're able to join us for that live, we will do it live at that time next week. And we probably just won't do the Enoch Bible reading, Enoch book reading next week because of that. I think we'll have probably a few too many things going on. At least I will, to be able to do all of it and squeeze it in. So, yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Fastenal. Precurious, I didn't post the video about the bread recipe. I don't know if I'll post a video about it. I think it's just going to be the link to my website that has the recipe on it. So that link is, I'm going to put it in the chat for you right now, so you have it. And I got to make sure that's on the video itself, on the live stream video. So in the live stream video, just check that before time, and the description should have anything, links to this or anything else we need to know before we go in next Wednesday. So, all right. Thank you, guys. By the way, I have been doing saltwater gargling. I did it last night I may do it again tonight before I go to bed. All right. Thank you guys so much. Hope you have a great evening, and God bless.